So, Jim, before we get into your top tips, because Jim sent me through some top tips, just tell everyone a bit about yourself. How many rooms? How much income? What's your rent roll? What's your, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. You need the accountant up here just as you were trying to bounce things off. We're almost up to 800 rooms now, of which probably something like 400 are studios, which is similar to the high-end boutique or the professional end of the market. Studio, mini flats, ensuite, with a little kitchenette. Though Mark's properties, he doesn't put kitchenettes into his rooms. I do. And then I've got rooms, which is what everyone thinks of as a shared house, own room, share kitchen, share bathroom. And we've got about 400 of those. Most of the rooms are now let to housing benefit tenants. About 60% of my tenants are housing benefit. Therefore, 40% are DSS. Working. Rent rolls $3.5 million. Don't envy me. The idea of having 800 rooms is not something to aspire to. Careful what you aspire to, because once you get over about 50 HMOs, you have to employ staff, and you have to delegate, and that's a completely different management. It's fun at the sort of 20 range. You do it yourself. You can do it yourself if you wish to, and I always suggest that you do it yourself. It's a people business, and it's interesting. Up until 2008, I wouldn't take unemployed tenants. I tried it a few years back when I changed from students, and I decided they were not for me. I've had to do it because in my area, it's pretty bad, the recession. I went from 6% unemployed in June 2008 to almost 60% by the November. At the rate we were going, by Christmas, it'd all be housing benefit tenants if things had continued at that rate. So I've got a lot of the housing benefit, but I've still got the working, and I still prefer probably the working, but I'm getting used to the housing benefit. I'm just north of Birmingham. Between Birmingham and Wolverhampton. I'm into Walsall. I'm touching Wolverhampton, Dudley. I go into Birmingham, top end of Birmingham.
Jim, what's the radius of your gold mine area?
My area is, I like to be in line of sight. 96% of my properties are within 10 minutes drive of where I am. I like to be hands-on with the properties.
Why do you like them all locally?
That saves travelling. One of the big killers in looking after property is the travelling time. So if you've got more within 10 minutes, you can get round fairly quickly.
So 96% of nearly 800. So you've got literally 750 rooms within that, just really close.
That's right.
Wow.
And I'm still getting more properties. People are so good to me in my part of the world. Don't knock it, Wednesbury. People just give me the keys to their properties and say, pay the mortgage or give me some money for it. They just don't want it, which is very hard from you from the southeast to understand that other people look upon property as a liability, and they give me the properties which I then multi-let. And I'm still getting more. How much can you pump into an area? I'm not sure. As Rob said, the demand for HMOs seems to be insatiable. And even though I've still got voids, the strange thing is that the new properties let before the existing properties. And the reason for that is they're all nice and fresh. They're all been decorated, cleaned up, and they come along and see a nice new property, which is a tip. If you want to let the tenants' properties well, make sure they're all nicely cleaned up and prepared. And they're still letting. It's a very strange market and understanding. To a certain extent, it's almost counterintuitive. Do not expect too much logic in this business. And it's great. It's, a people person. You're doing a fulfilling job in providing low-cost, flexible housing, saving the taxpayer a fortune, even though they are housing benefit tenants, because if they were housed under by the social sector, it costs. Well, let me give you an example. I've taken a tenant from, came out of a hostel. For a room, we charge about 65 quid. The hostel was charging £580 a week. Comes to me, and it's 65 quid a week. That's the difference. And then go into hostels as well. So the social sector side of it is tremendously subsidised, but that's supposed to be the good side of it. You'll see me on telly on BBC One. BBC One, 10:30, I think it's Wednesday the 17th of this month, July. So I'm even becoming a star. Star, stage, screen, and the rest. They did a programme. They followed me around for about 2 months. And even the television presenter was quite shocked by some of the things she saw. She thought, oh, it's great, you know, £3.5 million rent roll, £26 million worth of property. Oh, you're going to be doing well. But then you see the inside of it. But remember, that's the minority. Even housing benefit tenants.
How long have you been doing
8%.
this?
22 years. 22 years I've been at it. Has been the time period. And I've built up over that period of time.
What did you do before?
What did I do before? God, it was a world before HMOs. Yeah. I was a college lecturer, obviously shows. I did it. I gave up college lecturing in 2004, but I started doing HMOs 91, and I was letting to students from the college. Then those days it was dead simple because I just opened up a property and the college let it for me. So I was looking after students. So I had the lights of fire extinguishers. The average life of a fire extinguisher in my HMO, by the way, was 2 weeks, and Rob wasn't even there either. But anyway, but they didn't last very long, the fire extinguishers. All good fun.
All right, great. So Jim sent through some top tips, and of course you can ask him a couple of questions. He's going to do his bit. Then Jim's got to go back down to run his Super HMO course. Then Mark's going to come up, who's doing his section down on the Super HMO course, and he's going to come up and share some time with you. So I'm sure you're really grateful that they're breaking their time on the course to come and share some nuggets with you. And Jim's going to focus on the kind of the lower end of those 5 models. I want to bring Mark up. He's going to focus on the higher end of those 5. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, great. So, Jim, how many people can you squeeze legally into an HMO?
As many as you want. The floor space for a room is 70 square feet. Depends on the local authority you're dealing with. Leeds want 100 square feet, but for a shared house, it's 70 square feet. So the way I go about looking at a property is kind of how many rooms can I get out of it. A room needs a window that's opening. So I go through the property, depending on how much I want to spend on it, and work out how many rooms I can get out of it. Then what's left over becomes the kitchen and bathroom. It's very easy to sort out. So you look at the rooms, and some of these Victorian properties are fantastic. When you're letting to housing benefit tenants, they don't really mind too much having a 70 square foot room. And if you've got a large double room, that's about 140 square feet, you can have two out of that space. So you can easily split. And the same with lounges, you take the space.
So what's your favourite kind of model then? How many rooms?
6 to a terraced house. 2-bedroom terraced house. Usually, get the right house, you can split up into 6 rooms. But maybe 3-bedroom. But 6 tends to be about the average. If you get more, it's better. Because it costs the same to run a 4-room HMO as it does an 8-room HMO. So the more rooms, the more profit you can make out of it.
And what are you buying roughly what are you buying a 2-bed for in your area?
60 to 80,000.
Okay. And what yearly income are you getting when you get 6 to 8 beds in it?
Probably around about 22,000.
Yeah. Gross, and then net?
Net, throwing me in there, aren't you? Are you taking after mortgage? You're probably coming down to somewhere in the region of, after utilities are 3,600. So you've got 22,000, that leaves you about 18. Then take, say, 1,000 off for maintenance, and then you've got the mortgage, and the rest is.
So do you think it's possible to make £500 a house net?
I wouldn't bother doing it unless you make a minimum. My safe target is about £1,000 a month. 500 is not particularly good. £1,000 a month is what I
in the pocket.
£1,000 in your pocket, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you're writing all this down and following. Now I realise it's a lot. Quickly, and I don't want you to think I'm interrupting Jim, but Jim will just kind of lay it all out there, and my job is to just make sure that we're getting clear understanding. So write this down. Minimum £500 net after all costs per house. £1,000 ideally. London, add a lot more to those figures. Remember, Jim's doing it in the Midlands. So you've got to add more to your buy price, but add more to your net income as well. Cool. Now, are there instances where you don't even buy the property, Jim?
Yes, that's something that's happened fairly recently. Rent to rent is, I think, the expression.
Who's heard of rent to rent? Okay. Sorry, Jim.
That's it, rent to rent. Although I prefer it with balls on, in as much as I want the rent to rent with a right to buy. I tend to prefer that. I like the idea of being an acquiring property, though I'm getting used to the idea of renting. After all, what's the point of owning a property, because it just makes you rich in the graveyard. Rent is the income you're getting today, and that's really what matters. And in my area, there's plenty of people who want to get out, particularly tired landlords. They find it a bit grating. They don't, like me, enjoy the business. They get fed up with tenants trashing the place, setting off the fire extinguishers, kicking open doors and all the rest of it. They get upset about it. I just put it down to that's what tenants are like. Accept them. That's the way they behave. They're going to pinch your microwave. You see little Johnny putting your telly in the back of the car. You know he's leaving you. That's his way of saying goodbye to you. And you get used to that. So you don't spend much on the telly. If you shop around, you can pick up tellies for £2 or £4. So it's not a big loss.
£2 or £4?
£2 to £4, yeah.
Really?
Old tellies, yeah. The old tellies you can pick up £2 to £4. No one wants them. The big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't nick them. I like it.
The big ones.
Okay, cool. So Jim's top tips. Now, we're going to go quite advanced here. So if it's a little bit over your head, no problem. We can help you further. But Jim's top tips are, number one, use commercial finance to recycle all your cash. So Jim, in a few sentences, just explain the model of that, if you could.
Absolutely right. I was a college lecturer before then. I didn't have any money. You're not exactly rich college lecturers. Not too badly off. So it's all borrowed money. And the beauty of an HMO is it's valued on the income. So go back to that property. Let's keep the math simple. Say you're getting 25 grand out of the property. Then it will be valued generally between 7 and 10 times the income. So if it's producing 25,000, it's worth between 175,000 and £250,000. So within 30 seconds, I've told you all how to become valuers of properties. The simple is called a yield basis, and it's valued between 7 and 10. It's down to the valuer to decide how much multiplier they will use. Better areas, you'll get 10 times.
So Jim, let me just clarify this. So are you saying you can buy stuff at 60, 65, 80, 85, and then get them valued at 7 to 10 times 25 grand, so you can double or more the value?
Absolutely right. As I said, it doesn't make any logical sense. And could you sell it for that price? No. But in my area, reasonable area, 8 times income. So that property generating 25 will be worth 200k, cost 60. House next door is going for 60. And yet I've got a valuation of 200k on it. I can borrow 70%.
Okay, so this is important. Jim and I are going to spend a couple of minutes on this. One of our recent HMOs that we bought in the last year, we bought for 105k, we spent 65k, and we got it revalued at 260k. Is that
commercially?
Yeah, with a commercial valuation. Because a residential or buy-to-let valuation will value it on what's known as vacant possession, which is comparing other vacant properties in the local area. That's the terminology they use and how they do it. So if a property is worth 100 grand, all the others are roughly 100 grand. But a commercial lender, commercial being the word, finance, money, commercial reality, if it's kicking out income, they'll lend on an income multiplier because they're valuing it on the income. A bit like a business. A business can be valued on income even though it doesn't have a lot of assets, for example. And this is the magic, because you get to do no money left in HMOs, and you get to get all your refurb costs, even if they're 50 and 60 grand on a 100 grand property, back. Now, when Mark first learned this a few years ago, he was nervous and worried about it. He's the skeptical one. He's the one that likes to reduce all the risk. And he felt like he was overvaluing on vacant possession. But that's only because his mind was set on valuing on vacant possession. But commercial lenders don't do it that way. Now, not all commercial lenders will give you a commercial valuation. Some of them will give a vacant possession valuation. Your job is to find those commercial lenders in your area. But this, by the way, when you use this little tip, enables you to get the best of everything. Because the thing that held us back for years on HMOs was big input costs, huge regulation, big deposits, all that kind of stuff. But when you can hike the value up, then it solves the problem. But it's not overvaluing it, it's valuing it on the income.